All right, today's December 15th, and our asparagus has reached the stage where it turns brown and dies back, and our job is to cut all this down now and mulch this bed so it can sleep for the winter, and in the springtime, the spears will start popping through. So what we're going to do today is we're going to cut all these down ground level. These will all be cut down ground level. This grass is from the straw that we originally mulched this bed with. So it's real light grass. I'm just going to weed whack this down once we get all these spears cut down. And then once the grass is weed whacked down, then we're going to mulch this with new straw and some alpaca poop. So asparagus can live up to 30 years. So this bed, we have to take care of it. We have to keep it mulched. We have to keep it fertilized, because these asparagus spears will live up to 30 years. Okay, so asparagus, when you see it in the grocery stores at the beginning of the year, it's going to be really thick spears. That's when the plant is first starting its growth. And then as the months go on, you're going to start seeing skinnier spears, like almost the size of pencils. That's when the plant starts to get weak, and the spears that come up out of the ground are getting thinner and thinner. You can plant asparagus from seed. If you do that, you have to wait about 3 years before you can start eating it. You can buy 1-year-old crowns, which is what we did, and we planted these 1-year-old crowns last spring, and we just let it grow and fern out so that the roots would get stronger and get larger. Now that it's ferned out and it's in its stage where it's going to turn brown and die, we're going to cut it all down and overwinter it. These are berries, which are actually little seed pods. So you have male and female plants. When you buy your crowns, they're not going to ask you if you want male or female. It doesn't matter. You just plant it. They self-pollinate and will come up just fine. Okay, so with us planting 1-year-old crowns, and they started to come up, we could have harvested the asparagus for about a week or two, but we just let them grow stronger, didn't harvest anything. So next spring, after we cut these back and mulch this, next spring we'll be able to harvest it for about 3 to 4 weeks. And then we're going to have to let it fern out and let it rest. The 4th year will actually be our 3rd year, but the crowns will be 4 years old. We'll be able to harvest for about 8 weeks until we see the spears get really thin and weak, and then we have to let them just grow and fern out again. We have a lot of friends who didn't know how asparagus grew, and when we showed it to them, they were pretty surprised. I've grown asparagus many years in different gardens that I've had, and it's always amazing to see in the springtime when those spears first start to poke through the mulch. It's almost like a Christmas present, and there's nothing better than breaking off a spear and just eating it raw right out of the garden. Okay, so we're gonna get these cut down. We're gonna weed whack the grass that's growing, and then we're gonna get some mulch in and put this bed to rest for the winter. Let's get started. So these are the clippers we're gonna use to cut the asparagus spears, but before I do that, I want to sharpen them. I use a Speedy Sharp. Corona makes a good one. This is a little carbide sharpening blade on here, and I've used it for all my different blades, especially in the garden. And you just find the edge, and you put this at about a 45-degree angle and give it a couple swipes, and it cleans the blade and it straightens it out. And you can feel how sharp they are. And if you keep up on your equipment and maintain them, they stay nice and sharp. Beautiful. All right, let's get started. So you can see the spears in there. They're cut down to ground level. That's where the crown is, and all the roots spread out like an octopus around it. So once we get all these cut down, we'll weed whack this light grass and get these mulched. Okay, so we've got all the asparagus cut down to ground level, and now I'm gonna weed whack this light grass that's in here, and then we'll get the water line pulled up that we've got in here, and then once the water line is pulled up, we'll mulch it, and then we'll place the water line back on top of the mulch. Asparagus really isn't that difficult to grow. I think the hardest thing about asparagus is maintaining the bed with weeds and keeping it fertilized. I mean, in reality, asparagus is a weed. It grows, you know, in southern ditches alongside the road. But if we maintain it correctly, these beds will live, you know, realistically up to 30 years. They did fine during our last winter. But once they're cut down and they're dormant and they're underground and you've got them mulched, the crowns will come back the next year. Okay, so let's get this water line pulled up, and no, let's get it weed whacked, and then we'll get the water line pulled up and mulched. Okay, so we're going to pull up the water line for the asparagus now that we got it weed whacked. So I have regular 1/2-inch poly pipe connected to drip line, the brown poly pipe that has emitters every 18 inches. There's one there, there's one there. And I have 3 rows because I have asparagus that runs down here, here, and along each edge. So there's 4 rows of asparagus growing in this bed. So we're going to pull this line up and then get some mulch in here and put the line back. right, so we got the mulch on and we got our water lines laid back down. So this asparagus has now been put to bed. And next spring, the spears will come up and we'll harvest them for 2 to 3 weeks. And there's 120 crowns in here. So it's going to be a lot of asparagus. And then that bed over there that we've done a couple of videos on doesn't have any asparagus in it yet, but we have it prepped. So next spring we'll order some crowns, 1-year-old crowns for that bed. We'll get those planted, and then in 2 years we'll be able to harvest that. That's the thing about asparagus, you have to be a patient gardener. You have to be patient with asparagus. Because like I said, it can last up to 30 years. And the more you take care of it, the more asparagus grows. And each year you'll get more and more and more. Crowns will get bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, so that's it for right now. Talk to you soon. Hey, Bugs. Man, you're dirty. Yeah.
She likes to hang out in the garden and roll around in the dirt, play with the guineas. She's a farm kitty.
She agrees.
She's a dirty kitty. Oh my gosh.
Whoa.